Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sappy Hour. I'm Jaylon, and today we are joined with my good friend Hershell.
Very good friend. Hey everybody, what's up?
Hershell, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a uni student. Not really anything else to that, just a uni student, yeah.
Okay, great to have you here in the studio. That is
studio, yeah.
my room. But today's episode will be about the movie The Breakfast Club. I chose this movie because I wanted to start off with a movie that a lot of people have seen, and if you haven't seen it, you've at least heard of it. And I think that this movie kind of encapsulates exactly what it is that I want for this podcast, which is young people of different backgrounds, different personalities, different home lives, school experiences, just different life experiences in general, coming together to share a common space, which would be this podcast. So I thought this movie was a good first movie. I also didn't want to do a movie that like nobody knows about.
Oh, also, if they haven't seen it, I guess everyone used to watch Victorious back in the day.
Yeah, that one.
Back in the day, yeah. Back in the day.
That one episode of Victorious.
Where
If you haven't seen the movie.
When they had detention together.
Yeah.
That
So just a quick synopsis about what the movie's about. So it's 5 high school students. They have to do detention on a Saturday.
Yeah, for 8 hours.
And it's basically just 5 very different people, very different backgrounds coming together. And at the end, they basically share like a bond because of what they've experienced and what they've shared with each other on that day of detention.
Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think they would have become friends if they didn't use marijuana in the movie.
Probably.
To really have them, bond.
Right. But yeah, so I think that the main theme of this movie is identity, whether it's like personal identity or social identity, and the mental strain that is associated with finding that identity. And I mean, it also deals with like themes like family relationships, academic pressures, parental pressures, stuff like that. But I would say the main theme would be identity. The main characters, Brian is like
the
stereotypically the nerdy boy. Like very geeky. He's in like physics club.
Yeah.
And then you have Allison, and she's like the
very
quote unquote weird kid.
Yeah.
And then Andrew is the athlete, the jock. And John is like the misfit, the outcast.
Surprisingly, he looks just like John Stamos.
Doesn't look just like John Stamos.
He does.
And we have Claire, who's like the popular girl, the princess. Vote for me for prom queen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say though, before we actually talk about the movie, that I think that obviously high school culture in America is different from high school culture in Trinidad or secondary school.
Though there are a bunch of similarities.
Yeah, there are similarities, but I think overall it's quite different just because America and Trinidad or the Caribbean, obviously 2 different places.
And their schools, most of their schools are mixed.
Yeah, and we have a lot of same-sex schools.
Yeah.
So that, I think, plays a big part in
because
the culture of the school.
As you told me, like, you didn't really experience, like, jocks and...
Yeah, I would say in my secondary school experience, I, like, obviously you have, like, your different groups of people, like you have people who do drama and people who do like Math Olympia. I mean, I did drama and Math Olympia, so. But I don't think there's like very rigid separations in the way that there is in America. Like the jocks are completely separated from like the quote unquote nerds. Like I don't think we have that separation. So you know,
for me, I would say we did have it because well, the guys that played football in our school, I would consider them the jocks, and they were obviously the nerdy kids, like the guys that watched anime, and there was also the kids that did like math club and math olympiad and stuff like that. So I guess we did have it. It's just that since we do separate schools by sex mostly in Trinidad, there would be there wouldn't be cheerleaders or stuff like that, you know. So I think there are similarities, but it's just not the exact same, which makes sense.
Okay. I got you. I think my experience was that we didn't have like very serious separations in terms of groups like that. But like obviously we had like our different groups of friends and
like cliques is what you would say.
Yeah, like in the movie I think there's a lot of like clique culture.
Yeah, they brought it up. Like when they were sitting down bonding after smoking the marijuana that they smoke a lot of marijuana.
Okay.
Kind of crazy to put that in a show about kids. But anyways, yeah. So they were talking about if they would remain friends after they've had this like kind of session of sharing feelings and talking about that kind of stuff. And I think it was Brian, the nerdy kid.
Yeah, he asked if
it wasn't Brian. It was
Brian. He asked if they were gonna be friends after, and then Claire was like, "I don't think so."
Yeah, and then I think John
like,
had
what
said,
would her friends think?
Yeah, and John said that most definitely if they see each other on Monday,
they wouldn't talk.
Yeah, they'd walk straight past each other, or like if they do talk to each other, they'd talk with them, and then when the person leaves, they'd bad talk them with their friends or whatever, you know.
But do you think that in Trinidad high school experience, secondary school experience, do you think there is clique culture?
Most definitely, without a doubt. Most definitely.
But do you think it's like as serious as America?
I wouldn't say that 100%, but maybe 80%. Yeah, I do.
I got you.
Yeah.
I think in my school there wasn't like very intense clique culture, but like my experiences with people from different other schools, other secondary schools, you could tell like they are very like, you're not in my friend group, so like I'm not really gonna give you the time of day, you know. And I think that
thinking about it, 100%, yeah, for me 100% there's
in your school,
yeah, clique culture, yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
I think that when I interact with people who have that like mentality, it makes me very anxious because like I am not one of their friends like that, and people do treat you differently.
Yeah.
Because like you didn't go to school with me, or like I don't talk to you like that or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that genuinely makes me feel anxious, and like I have trouble like interacting with people my own age that I'm not already friends with.
Yeah.
Like making, like even when I started this new school,
yeah,
it was kind of like, how do I talk to people that I'm not already friends with? You know what I mean? Like, how do I actually like make new friends? Like, how do I start a conversation with somebody? I feel like I've only really made like a few like actually like friends, and then everybody else is kind of just like I go to school with them, so like I talk to them if I see them in school, like if I'm in a class with them or something. But I think it is hard to make new friends sometimes. But I think if you're like a person who's like a very like open, yeah, it would obviously be easier for you.
But I feel like UE or like those kind of places, university, right? I don't think the environment really helps with making a lot of friends. You know, it isn't like the same as in primary school and that, where you sit down in a class all the time and seeing the exact same people.
Yeah,
every
it
day.
is different people for different classes.
Yeah, I feel like it's.
I think like even in secondary school, like in Form 3
Yeah.
from high school, Form 4, Form 5, even though you do have different people in different classes, it's still the same group of people.
And it's also way less people, if you ask me.
Yeah,
it's way
it
less.
definitely is way less
Like
people.
about 90 or. No, not 90, like 100 or something.
Yeah, it is like
students in
100
a form.
something.
So it's like you kind of stay in a kind of pool, so it's easier for you.
I also think like making friends now in Corona is crazy because you're sitting behind a computer screen.
Yeah.
Like you're not having face-to-face interactions with people, and obviously that throws off everything. Like how am I supposed to, like a lot of times also it's like you're just seeing a name and not a face.
Yeah. That's
I think
kind of annoying.
Yeah, like there's no human interaction, which makes it even harder, and I think that makes me more anxious.
Yeah, but
I would feel a lot less, I would feel like nervous if I was like talking to people face to face.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of just like, you know.
I do feel like it's not that bad to have a few good friends, you know, like rather than having a bunch, and I feel that's a drag. Yeah, I feel it's a drag, so I think you shouldn't be worried about having like a.
I'm not worried, but I'm just like, you know.
2 friends, 1 friend in your school, one friend, one singular friend.
I also feel like there's a lot of pressure to like make connections and stuff, in general.
But group work also helps with that, you know.
But group work is also terrible.
Yeah, because
especially over the internet, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, people are really not dependable when it comes to group work as well. So
yeah, I also think like for example, you and I are friends, right? But
friends.
Like sometimes sometimes I feel like we feel weird to talk to people who aren't.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like somebody, I would feel weird to like talk to them because you're my friend and I don't want, like, I feel like a pressure, like, do I talk to this person, do I not? They didn't really do anything to me personally, but they like, you know, did you wrong, so like, do I talk to them? Do I not? If I talk to them, are you gonna be like upset with me? And like, I feel like we think about that a lot as well. Like, we kind of like are nervous to like go against your friends, even though you're not really going against anybody, but just like to go outside of your friend.
Even if it's not like the other person already met the person and doesn't like them. I feel like even when you're chilling in a group and somebody in the group brings somebody new, it's kind of weird at first.
Yeah.
And sometimes I find myself like not really wanting to talk, but it's kind of not who I am. I usually want to speak to people. It just takes a little bit, you know.
I got you.
Time.
I just feel like there's a lot of anxiety like involved in like meeting new people.
Yeah.
Even though like when you actually think about it, it's not that hard.
It was easier when you were younger because you
overthink
it, you know?
Exactly.
Now you're like, oh, what if this person blah 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 blah, you know?
Yeah, I feel like now there's like so many things you take into consideration when you're trying to become friends with somebody.
Yeah.
But like when you were younger, it was just like, there's just a person that I'm talking to.
Wanna be my friend? Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so much more pressure now to speak to people. And I think people, like, obviously you want to like have a good reputation, but like you don't want your reputation to like take over everything. But I think a lot of people take upkeeping their reputation or like having that like social standing, they take that really seriously. Like even in the movie, like Claire, she how she was like so concerned about what her friends would say about her if they saw her like talking to Brian.
Yeah.
You know?
It was also they kind of showed it when they first started, when they first got into the room for detention. She was like, "So, I don't think I belong here."
Yeah.
I was like, "What? It's kind of weird," but yeah, she was moving like a diva, I guess.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do take that really seriously, and that makes them very like stuck up and snobby. Cause like they only associate with like certain people, and that's like their brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's their whole personality.
Like I am thinking of like certain groups or like certain people that I know that like would treat you so badly if you aren't like if you aren't like one of their friends, you know. Like people really really exaggerate the clique culture, if you know what I mean. And I think that's trying to, like, going back to the whole theme of identity, like trying to find a group or people that you would consider your own or like your group. It is a lot of pressure and a lot of like mental strain, if you understand.
Also some people kind of they kind of think it's funny to make it difficult for people when they want to be their friend, so they kind of take advantage of them, you know. Like, this person wants to be my friend, they'll do whatever I want because they want to be my friend, you know.
And I think that the person that's being taken advantage of, that just like makes them go on in life thinking like, I need to fit in, and like you're not good enough to like talk to certain people or like be in certain groups or whatever.
It makes them try too hard for no reason sometimes, you know.
And I think it just like like worsens their social anxiety when people take advantage of you, knowing that, you know. But I do think though that when you actually find like your friend group or like people that understand you, it does like make school and like the struggle
it makes it more fun and
it
easier.
Makes it easier, it makes it much more enjoyable. You know, like you don't mind going to school.
Though maybe you wouldn't pay attention in class because you're talking with your friends or anything. I think that's okay. I think that's totally fine.
That's actually completely fine. Like in the film,
which scene?
Allison and Andrew, when Allison, Brian, and Andrew were sitting down, and then Allison, they were all emptying the bags.
Oh, yeah.
Right. There was a part where Allison started talking about how she wants to run away because her home life isn't satisfactory. And then Brian is trying to tell Andrew that, and then Andrew's like, everybody's home life is unsatisfactory. I think that after that, she kind of like regrets saying that because of what, like, how Andrew like responded, and then he is like, oh my god, that was kind of insensitive, and then he goes back to talk to her, and then like she barely says anything, and he's like, oh, your parents, and he like understands what she's saying, and you could see like on her face she like found somebody that like understands what she's talking about, you know. And I think like a lot of the times like the closest friends are a lot like usually unexpected. Like with Victoria and I in Form 1.
You have a friend named Victoria?
Oh my god, you don't know her?
No.
In Form 1, I think Victoria and I are very different. And I think in Form 1 we were even more different than we were now.
I think Victoria's the nerdy one.
She's not, but
weird
I don't
one.
think any of us are the nerdy one.
She's nerdy and weird one. Very weird. Extremely
I think
peculiar.
both of us are crack addicts.
Okay.
But yeah, like there was no like interaction really that was like, oh, like she's just like me, we could be friends. You know, it was kind of just like, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be friends with that person. And
I'll settle for her friendship.
Not like that.
That's what I heard just then.
But yeah, and then we became friends. But you know, it's just nice to have people, even if you all don't have the same personality or even the same interests, because I feel like me and a lot of my friends don't have necessarily the same interests, and we are very different people, but people who understand you and can like empathize and like relate to what you're saying makes like everything that is hard in life
makes you feel like you belong,
more manageable.
No,
yeah, like having that place of belonging really makes things easier, you know. And another really big theme throughout the movie, like from the very beginning, was family relationships. And all of them come from really different family lives, and you could tell that the way that they interact with their parents and how their home is like influences how they feel about themselves and like how they treat others in school and like how they approach school life in general, you know. Like I guess we could start with Brian.
That's the new one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brian, like, his main thing was like his parents really pressured him to like get good grades and like do
Yeah.
good in school.
Academics, yeah.
Yeah, like the academic pressure from your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can really mess you up a lot.
Yeah.
And like his thing was he wanted to kill himself. Like he had a gun in his locker, and
Because
that's like crazy.
it was workshop. He didn't know.
Yeah,
how
like
to-
he couldn't get through one class.
Yeah, and he felt
And
like
he
that was
fe-
the end of the world.
Yeah, and like literally kill himself.
Yeah.
Which I think that sometimes when parents are like really pressuring their children to like, you have to do good in school, or not even you have to do good in school, but you have to go down this career path.
Yeah.
That really like could send your child like over the edge, and a lot of parents do not realize that.
You're gonna say career path.
Yeah, I
Say that,
mixed it
yeah.
up. You know, and also John, he was like really bullying Brian because what is Brian really complaining about? His parents
Yeah.
are together.
I really didn't
He
expect
has like
that kind of attitude from John Stamos. I thought he was a cool guy.
no, Hershell is not John Stamos. He like Brian has his life together.
Yeah.
And I think that I felt like this also. Like a lot of people are like, oh, if your parents are together, if you all live in one household, like
you don't have any
if you
pressures in life.
yeah, if you seemingly have your life together,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to have any other problems.
Just because it's a thing like your experiences aren't mine, so I may live in a household with both parents and all that, but there's other things that would affect me, not in the same way as other things affect you, but we have different perspectives. It's all about perspective, really.
Yeah. I think that like I feel like in form 4, form 5, like people would be telling me like stories about their parents and like how different, like listening to them and realizing how different their life is from mine. I kind of felt bad to like talk about like what would bother me and what would make me feel upset, because I'm kind of like, oh, my parents aren't divorced, like I don't have to go from parent to parent. I don't have like crazy financial issues, like my parents could take care of the family or whatever. I felt like I don't really have like issues, like not issues, but like the kind of problems my friends have to deal with. I don't have them, so like therefore what am I supposed to complain about? And like I just kind of felt bad to like say anything negative or complain about anything, because like some people have it worse off than me, so it's like, what am I like, I'm too good to be complaining right now.
But it's, as I said, it's all about perspective.
It's like you have problems, even though like you may not have as problems that might look as big as other people's problems,
but it is what you're experiencing.
Your feelings and your problems are still very, very valid. And Brian like says how he doesn't like himself, and I think it's that comes along with like all the pressure that his parents put on him. It's like he feels like he's not like living up to his parents' expectations, and that makes him hate himself.
I also feel like it isn't only because of his parents that he doesn't like himself. I feel like other people, like in the school, would make him feel like he shouldn't like himself. Like they look at him weird, like, oh, he's into physics, blah, blah, blah.
Like Claire.
She made him feel weird about being smart,
Yeah,
she made him feel like if it's some kind of, like he's some kind of leper or something for being smart.
It does make you like it's a lot of different things that add to like how you feel about yourself. Like your parents make you feel a certain way about yourself, the way you interact with in school, and then like looking at like John, I think because he reveals very early in the show that his household is very like abusive.
He looks like his household is abusive. He wears 2 different sizes of shoes.
That doesn't mean anything. Victoria wears 2 different sizes of socks, and she doesn't come from abusive.
Victoria dyed her hair. She looks hip. John wears like a bandana tied around his ankle. I know what kind of style that is.
I just feel like that's just him expressing himself.
I guess.
Because of the relationship, I guess, that he has like with his family, or like the lack of relationship.
He also wears biker
parents.
gloves. Who does that?
It's also like the era of the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like your family life plays a big role in how you feel about yourself and like
Mhm.
how your school life actually goes.
And clearly also your personality, because, well, Brian's personality is that way because of his household and John's own and blah blah blah. So like John, he is the way he is because of his abusive father. You know, that's why his personality is really abrasive, and he's always like he never makes himself emotionally available to other people.
Mm-hmm.
He just lashes out by, you know, criticizing others and making them feel bad, you know.
Right.
And I would say Allison,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like her thing is her parents don't give her, like she said, her parents, they don't give her any attention, and she acts out, she steals stuff, she lies and all that just so people would notice her. And I kind of think that's it, because when you're talking about when she emptied her bag for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
the only reason she emptied the bag was because everyone was sharing, like was passing around their wallets to look at their IDs and whatever. And she was like, "Does anyone want to see my bag?" And they were like, "No." And then she kind of looked kind of sad when they said no, and then she just emptied the whole bag. So I feel like she wants attention from other people because she doesn't get it enough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think each of them has their thing, and well, Claire, I don't really know what Claire's problem is really. I feel like she's just the popular one, and her parents are divorced.
I think that like her parents, she's like really rich and spoiled and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So she expects that same treatment from everybody else because she thinks that she's like at a higher level than them.
Yeah.
So like all the other people in school have to treat her. She expects them to treat her the way that her parents.
And she also said that she feels like her parents they don't really care. They kind of use her as a way to get back at each other. So they like buy her whatever she wants and all that. So she'd pick a side. So she's accustomed to getting pampered in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I also think in the same scene with where Allison empties her bag and she says that her home life is unsatisfactory, and then like Andrew says everybody's home life is unsatisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
I think like it is off-putting when people you like open up and then people, especially about something like as personal as your home life, and then people are like, oh well, everybody has problems.
Yeah,
like,
kind of discourages you from talking about it in the future.
Yeah, I feel like your parents do that a lot as well.
Yeah, they do that sometimes with like what are you stressed about? What are you stressed about? There's nothing to be stressed about, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about perspective. From a child's perspective, there's stuff that would frustrate them, but from a parent's perspective, they would think, oh no, what do you have to be stressed about?
Yeah.
Your home, you know, you have a roof over your head, you have food to eat, all those things. But
yeah, like obviously if like I'm not at this stage in life that my parents are, so obviously I don't have to deal with the things that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that like where I am right now everything is so perfect.
I feel like most people have this thing in their mind where like when they move past a certain period in their life, they kind of forget that other people will experience that period as well. So like how like parents, everyone used to be young at a point, so parents when they get older, I feel like they kind of forget how it was to be young, you know, and like what you used to have to deal with. So they find it hard to relate to their children at times, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got you. How much would you say that like your home life affects your school life, like the way you approach doing schoolwork and like interacting with people at school, making friends, all that stuff?
I don't know, I kind of feel like, to me, I don't really not pay attention, I don't really take on my home life that much. In only some instances it affected me in school, and that was like when I was in Form 3 or so.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I don't really take it on, I don't really pay attention to it most. I kind of feel like I'm more communicative with my friends.
You think that like it affects you less the older you get?
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like when you're younger, you're not as emotionally mature, and you can't deal with really tough situations. It's kind of hard, and you get emotional quickly. So I feel like when you get older, you kind of, well, after a certain period of time, you get desensitized to a bunch of stuff.
Right.
It's like how some children when they're younger, they had to go through a lot of things, and then now they're more mature for their age, quote unquote mature for their age, because they had to experience a bunch of stuff when they were younger that are normal.
But it's really just like them being desensitized to it.
Yeah, it's just
not actually
desensitizing.
being mature.
You're not actually mature. You're just desensitized.
Yeah, I got you. Also, after they had that discussion, when they were in the circle, I also think like that circle setup always makes people comfortable enough to like share personal stories.
Yeah.
Like think about it, like every time you've been in a situation like that, you or somebody else has shared something like a bit more personal.
Yeah. I also think the amount of people in the circle also helps, because if it's a lot of people, even though it's a circle, like a bunch of eyes on you when you're saying something kind of makes you feel uncomfortable, you know?
I got you. In the same circle scene, the group therapy scene, one of them says, do you think we'd grow up to be like our parents? So do you think you would necessarily grow up to be like your parents? And why?
I don't think so. I think there's like people think that's what will happen, but I feel like your parents really do play a big role in who you become when you get older, but I don't think people become exactly like their parents, you know? If you feel like you want to change, I feel like you could do that. You could change. I don't think you have to be necessarily like your parents. Maybe similar, but not exactly like them.
I feel like it takes a lot for some people to like
change,
like publicly have different opinions or ideals than their parents. Like even something like voting.
Yeah.
Like your parents would always vote for like a particular party, so you feel like, oh, I need to vote for this party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of people are kind of scared sometimes to openly have different views and values that, you know, from their parents, different from their parents.
Yeah. It's also, I'd say in the Caribbean, well, not only in the Caribbean, but having different views and stuff is kind of frowned upon by parents. You know, kind of like, no, you have to think this. If you think the other thing, that's wrong. You're wrong. It's crazy. All of you kids these days, this generation, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that, thinking about it, I do think people do end up becoming
like their parents.
Yeah, because I feel like in every generation, the old people look down on the younger people, and then the young people say how the old people don't understand them and stuff like that, you know? I feel like it's a cycle rarely changes.
I got you. I think for me, there was a point where my parents were like, oh, you'll like need to think this, or you're like, this is the right thing to think, you should have these values and stuff.
Injecting you with like morals and stuff like that, they're morals.
Yeah, but then I feel like now I do have very different values and stuff than my parents, and I'm not like scared to like say that. Like I am very open about it. Like my parents know that I don't think what they think, and you know, there are things that my parents think are right that I think are wrong, and vice versa. So I feel like in terms of me growing up to be like my parents, obviously I have like embedded personal traits.
That you would have.
But I don't think I would necessarily grow up to be like
exactly like them, you know?
Yeah. You know? But yeah, I also think something worth mentioning is the way the teacher talks to the students.
Yeah.
Because I feel like not only when you talk about how school life affects you mentally, I think it's your peers, two, the level of schoolwork and how well you do in school,
and the teachers,
and then three, the teachers.
But I feel like some teachers, they adopt an abrasive approach to students because, you know, they feel like if they try to be too kind, students don't take them seriously, and that does happen. Students, they take advantage of a teacher's kindness. Yeah. So if a teacher is like not as abrasive, they would like talk in class and not pay attention. And if the teacher says, guys, be quiet, they'd be like, we don't have to listen to you, you know? So they feel like taking a more abrasive approach would help, like, what's the word? Kind of keep them in check, you know?
I got you. I think that it is nice though when you have a teacher that you could like talk to about things other than school. But I think the teacher in the Breakfast Club, he was very abusive of his position of power. Though the scenes where he like left the room where they were sitting in,
he was kind of
like, oh, I kind of actually want them to like me. But like I don't know how to like reach out to them and like relate to them on their level.
Yeah, it's easy. From his perspective, I guess it would be easier to be abrasive because you don't have to be emotionally available to students and they can't like make fun of you for it. As funny as it sounds, that is what happens as well. Like teachers that are vulnerable, I feel like majority of students don't really take them on as much. Kind of make fun of them. So I know I felt like his approach I feel like maybe it was a bit over the top, but I think it kind of worked for him, you know, because he was dealing with John Stamos, who is a bit of a delinquent.
Yeah.
Not even a bit of a delinquent. He is the definition of a delinquent.
Yeah.
So I feel like he did have to be abrasive because if he wasn't, then John would kind of see weakness in him and not listen to him at all.
Like take advantage of him.
He already wasn't really listening to him, so if he wasn't abrasive, then he most definitely wouldn't have gotten John to like obey him or whatever, you know.
I got you. But I do think the way that he interacted with John throughout the movie was like very extreme.
Yeah.
And
but
like
that's how it is in from my experience. That is how it is in boys' schools, you know. Like the male teachers, there's a few male teachers that are very, very abrasive, you know. Especially not as much in secondary school. I feel like in secondary school there's some teachers like that. But in primary school...
Yeah, I think if this was in primary school, like, jeez, John would have been getting licks like crazy.
Talk about...
Which is not okay also. Because I think this teacher did abuse his position of power.
Yeah.
And he was very, like... though John was very disrespectful to him, the teacher was very, like, verbally and, like, emotionally abusive towards John. And he was, like... he called him... like a turd or something. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
And he told him he was going to end up in jail and like he's such a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And like obviously John is a very troubled student. Like, but you could tell.
You know.
And I think that the teacher approaching John like that just makes the situation worse and adds to like his mental struggle.
I feel like he looks at it at John wanting to be the way he is, but John is more of a product of his environment.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't want to have to deal with all that stuff and be mean to people, but it's like how he developed.
Yeah, like he doesn't know anything else.
Yeah. And I also feel like me and some of my friends, we were talking about how teachers used to be in primary school, and looking back at it, it was kind of crazy how they used to beat us that much, you know, because we were like 8 and 9 years old.
I think a lot of teachers don't have like the emotional intelligence to deal with students like John.
Yeah, they're kind of merciless. Most definitely merciless.
Yeah, like they don't take the time to be like, oh well, this is clearly a troubled person. Let me try to understand what's happening. Maybe I could help them in some way. But instead, they're like screaming at them, shouting at them, and like a lot of, I think, prestigious schools also, they care more about how the school looks than if the students are actually like doing okay. So like they wouldn't take the time to like understand the more troubled students unless that like makes the school look good.
I also think that maybe the male teachers were more abrasive, but I think they were better at handling and relating to the male students. Well, obviously male students because, well, I went to over school.
Yeah.
So, because from what I can remember, I felt like the female teachers, especially in like around standard 3 or so, they were extremely abusive. Like, if you came back from lunch break or recess with the tad bit of sweat on your back or on your face, you get licks. Everybody in class making noise, and maybe you there sleeping, or you weren't even in class, you went to the washroom, come back, and the class was making noise, everybody getting licks. And they had this weird Peter pay for all, and what was Peter pay for Paul, and Peter pay for Paul and
which
Paul
I
pay
don't
for
really
all.
understand.
The saying doesn't make any sense, but
no, I understand. It's also like men and women obviously have different levels of emotional intelligence.
Calling me retarded?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's a general statement, but obviously it varies between every man and woman, because not every man has the emotional capacity as like every other man, obviously. And then some women are more emotionally available than other women.
Yeah.
But in general, I would say sometimes men don't really know how to express their emotions unless it's like aggressively. Obviously, that's not every single man ever.
I feel like
But I think that, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it's also easier to be emotionally available with, like, with other guys, because me and my friends, I feel like we talk a lot about like how we're doing and stuff like that, and how we feel. I don't feel like we're like, oh yeah, like if one of us comes together about something like that, we don't go, what you talking about? We don't want to hear that,
Yeah.
We really don't really have a problem talking about it. I feel like 50% of our conversations are about like how each person is going and stuff like that, I feel like it is true that maybe a lot of guys aren't emotionally available, and I also think that's because of society, the kind of like how men aren't supposed to be,
yeah,
blah,
like
blah,
when
blah.
men actually open up about their emotions, society is like, that's not okay.
I also think it's kind of funny because society goes, yeah, men should open up about their emotions.
Yeah, and then when they do, it's like, that's
let's
gross.
laugh at him.
Get out of here.
Kind of crazy.
So it's like men don't really, a lot of the times, have the space to be
the outlet
like
to
that.
talk about emotions. Yeah.
If you want to talk about your emotions, come to my podcast. But yeah, and but the way the teacher dealt with John, I thought was just like worsening John's, how he feels about him. Like the way that the teacher interacted with John is just gonna make John's attitude towards life and others and himself just worse further on in life. Like even in the way, like Brian, they found a gun in his locker because he wanted to kill himself, and then he got detention for that.
Kind of crazy. Wait, that's a kind of plot hole. They found a gun, and he didn't.
No, but I do think that schools just don't care about your mental health like that.
But then again, it would make sense that all he got was detention, because maybe they don't want the publicity. They don't want like, oh my God, gun found at
that's
school.
what I'm saying. Like a lot of schools don't actually take students' mental health into consideration.
They just deal with the situation and stop it from spreading.
Yeah, like try to like
contain it. Like there was a thing that happened in Prez in like 2013 or 14, and in my opinion, I didn't feel like it got as much coverage as it should have, because it was a big deal, and I felt like it kind of got dealt with under the rug, because I was surprised to know that not much people knew about it from other schools. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, a lot of schools don't really care about your mental health.
Yeah.
Unless your mental health somehow makes the school look good.
Yeah.
Like literally, Brian was gonna kill himself, and they're like, "Oh, detention."
Yeah.
Instead of like, "Oh, we need to get this boy counseling or something." Like, what's going on?
And it would also seem, maybe we're not sure if they told his parents that they found a gun, but at the beginning of the movie, it kind of felt like his parents didn't care either. They were like, oh.
No, she was like, "Oh, you find time to study."
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember.
Crazy, because her son tries to kill himself.
He's like, "You can't study, but," and she's like, "Find a way."
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Which again just adds to his mental struggle and like the pressures of exactly. Not like if you try to kill yourself.
About the about like how the teacher dealt with John. I remember when he took John away from everyone, had him in like a storage room where he was gonna like lock him into a storage room to like keep him from everyone else, because he was making a lot of trouble. He was like leaving the classroom and he wasn't supposed to leave and all that, and like the teacher, he took a really rough approach to John. He was like shouting at him.
Yeah, and he was like, "I'm gonna beat you up."
Yeah, and he was like he was telling John, "If you're so bad, hit me. I'll give you the first hit," and blah blah blah. And like John, he kind of retreated and felt. I feel like, as you said, I believe you said that like when we were talking earlier, you said that it kind of reminded John of his dad in a way. Yeah. Because that's his dad used to abuse him and beat him.
Yeah, I think he did see his dad,
and that's why he got scared. Yeah.
Yeah, in that scene, it definitely was a reflection of his household.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that being a young person and being a student, a lot of things play a different role in your mental health.
Most definitely.
School, how you interact with people in school, wanting to fit in school, wanting to find your like little group, how well you do in school, the pressure your parents put on you to do well in school.
Yeah.
Then you have like, I don't know who I am right now. Like you try to do different things to try to figure out like who exactly you are, like what you don't like.
And then maybe you try to force yourself to become someone so other people will like you.
Yeah, I think Brian did that a lot in the movie.
Yeah.
He kept saying things. Like, when they first started talking about how they didn't like their parents, Brian was like, yeah, I hate my parents, da, da, da.
Yeah.
And even though he may have hated his parents,
yeah,
it was just like, he was just saying things, so they would have been like, oh, Brian, oh my god, literally same.
Because I believe John and, what's the jock guy, what's his name?
Andrew.
And Andrew, like, talking about how they don't like their parents, and then he got in the middle of them and like, I don't like my parents either, guys.
Yeah, he kept, I think a lot of us, I don't think I do that as much now, but I feel like when I was younger I used to do that all the time. Like, I just wanted to fit in, like I just wanted people to like me. And I think Brian is a really good example of how so many of us do that, or used to do that, or still do that.
I feel like Brian and Andrew are a bit similar, because Andrew also felt pressured by his dad for the sports thing, because I believe he said that sometimes he wishes that one day in training he'd injure himself so he wouldn't have to do it, because he's doing it for like his dad's approval. And he was also saying how he doesn't feel like he could think for himself because he lets his dad decide everything. And he also like tries to emulate everything his dad did.
Your family relationships, in addition to all the aspects of school life, definitely does play a part in your mental health,
Yep.
But I think that's it for this episode. Thank you all for listening. It has been great. I thought it was a cool experience. I thought it was a cool discussion.
Yeah.
If you have any comments or suggestions or anything like that, you can feel free to let me know. Once again, disclaiming that Hershell and I are not mental health experts, nothing like that. We just thought we were just sharing our experiences in comparison to this movie. But thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes. I have a few more guests coming on and some cool movies, or at least I think they're cool. So thanks for listening, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode.